Many novels reside under the speculative fiction umbrella. These novels can contain myth, fairy tales, to the fantastic and the uncanny, to the new wave of science fiction and the exploration of concepts of race, colonialism and gender. We'll be focusing on magical realism. In the first half of the 20th century, Franz Roh, a German historian, photographer and art critic, was interested in post-expressionist paintings, focusing on the way they were painted, with a sense of unreality, but they seemed to create the opposite effect, providing clarity and distinctive focus on reality. In 1925, he coined the term magischer Realismus. In the 1960s, magical realism was first applied to fiction by Alejo Carpentier, referring to it as marvellous real. Ursula Pereggi was the first writer to apply the term magical realism. Ursula was more associated with Roh's form, believing the mystery of human living amongst the reality of life. When looking at magical realism, art and literature have an elemental difference. Art and objects were portrayed deliberately as dull, escaping all notions of fantastic. The fantastic is found in the literature. In literature, magical realism can be described as an amalgamation of real and imagination, producing a realistic world while embedding magical elements. This merger is evident in Markus Zusak's The Book Thief. The unconventional narrator of this story is Death, but not as we know it. Death introduces us to Liesl, a young girl who watches her brother die and is separated from her family. She is cared for by foster parents and is living with the effects of the evils of the Hitler regime and the monstrosities of the war. Although times are tough, she is altered when at her brother's grave she requires the Grave Digger's Handbook. This introduces us as the reader to her book thievery and Liesl to her own love of books. Liesl's book stealing and storytelling play a major part in supporting her foster parents and Max, the Jewish man they're hiding. Using the power of words, she gives strength and comfort to her neighbours, helping them in times of need. The real deal. Some of the places and events in this novel are real. Germany, the Russian front, Australia. Historical events are retold. Jewish persecution, concentration camps for unruly Germans and Jews, book burnings. Not only are the places and events real, there is also reference to real dates and people. Hitler's birthday on the 20th of April. Not to mention the 1936 Olympic 4 times track and field medalist Jessie Owen. And death. Death is real. The novel is entwined with historical proven events, real people and elements. Death, on the other hand, in this novel is the only magical feature. The magical. Death in this novel is not as we know it. Death describes himself in the novel, not only displaying his humanised appearance, but he seemed to be funny and compassionate, having emotions that parallel and reinforce his closeness to humans. By presenting death in this way, the reader subconsciously resists any preconceived auto-processed images that are attached to death. An example of this is when Death moans about his job. He feels that the humans are overworking him with war. This makes the reader sympathise with Death, as we can all identify with the feeling of being overworked. In creating the supernatural humanised presence Death, naturalisation is used. Zusak also uses the strategy of supernaturalisation. We are immediately introduced to a supernatural narrator whom holds a panoramic view of events, this serving as a device to overcome scientific boundaries. As he can go from past, present to future, this magical narrator jumps from spaces and times, telling tales from all around the world. Zusak produces this magical feature, Death, in an impassive way, making the magical aspects seem ordinary and normal. When Death declares, "I am haunted by humans," this automatically makes the humans appear as the other. Haunting is usually associated with ghosts. Death is painting a phantasmagorical deception of the human. This is supernaturalisation. This is when the real reality being portrayed by Death is seen as fantastic or unreal, turning the real reality upside down. The author uses death as a tool to foreground the strategy of inversion. This strategy is achieved by using what we have looked at, when the magical feature is naturalised and simultaneously the realistic features are overturned or reversed. The Book Thief is a magical story that emphasises the power of words. It's sold over 16 million copies and has been translated into 63 languages. Definitely a must read.